Welcome back to Sleepy Cosmos, your quiet corner of the universe where we take gentle breaths and even gentler journeys through the stars. Tonight, we're setting off on a calm and slow exploration of why time flows differently in space. Picture this. The universe is enormous, everyone's in a hurry on Earth, and yet somewhere out there, a clock is ticking at a completely different rhythm just because gravity or speed decided to mess with it. Don't worry, no black holes are going to eat you tonight. Not even a nibble. It might sound straightforward, or maybe a bit odd, but as you sink deeper into it, you'll find it unfolding into something vast and quietly mesmerizing, much like the cosmos itself. As usual, my hope is that this video helps you relax into sleep or at least lets you step back and see your worries from millions of light years away. Of course, there's always a chance it's fascinating enough to keep you awake. If that happens, well, at least you'll drift off with a sprinkle of cosmic wonder in your thoughts. Before we gently launch into this starry voyage, it would mean a lot if you'd hit like and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I create here. Also, I'd love to hear where in the world you're tuning in from and what time it is there. Are you curled up in bed in Paris at midnight? Or maybe relaxing on a sofa in Manila while the sun shines brightly outside? Drop a note in the comments. It's always wonderful to see this sleepy little constellation of viewers spread across the globe. Now dim the lights, imagine the stars above your bed. Settle in. You don't have to keep track of every word or stay alert. Just let the gentle flow of these words surround you like a soft cosmic glow. And as we embark on this slow, peaceful journey through the vastness of space, remember this video is here to help you unwind and learn, not to replace any medical advice. Right? You start by letting your shoulders drop. Not just a little bit, let them fall the way a heavy coat slides off when you come home after a long day. And for a moment, you imagine that there is nothing in the world but the sky and the ground beneath your feet. It's strange, isn't it, how we live by time every single day but rarely stop to wonder what it feels like when time itself slows down. So tonight, you make an unusual choice. No clocks, no calendars, no buzzing reminders in your ear. Instead, you decide to visit a version of Earth where there were no watches at all. A sky with no clocks. Imagine yourself barefoot, standing in an enormous plain. The grass is cool and a little damp, brushing against your ankles like the fur of a sleepy cat. There is no electricity here, no concrete roads. Only the sky, so wide and black it looks like someone has taken a piece of velvet and pinned it up above your head. And there are the stars, countless, glittering, calm. Take a slow breath. You can almost smell the scent of Earth, a sweetness in the cool air, and a touch of wild plants you can't name. There's no digital glow, no humming fridge, no faint traffic. Just quiet. At first, it feels almost too quiet. But after a while, your ears begin to hear other things. The far-off hoot of an owl. The small chirps of night insects. And somewhere, maybe, the sound of a tiny stream. Look up. The Milky Way is spilled across the sky like someone shook a bag of sugar. For ancient people, this view was not decoration. It was instruction. The stars told them how to live, when to plant, when to prepare for winter, when to move to a new valley because the seasons were changing. There was no 7:15 p.m. There was only, the shadow of that tree has reached the water. Or, the moon is thin as a fingernail, so the month is just beginning. Or, the first bird sang, so dawn is coming soon. If you stand here long enough, you can feel that rhythm too. You notice the way night very, very slowly fades at the horizon. Not suddenly, but like a drop of pale milk swirling into dark coffee. A line of silver gray stretches across the east, and for a while, you can't even tell if it's real or if your eyes are just playing a trick. The first clocks. Long before gears and pendulums, the very first clock was your body. You knew when it was time to sleep because your eyes burned. You woke when the sun spilled over the hills and the birds got loud. And if your stomach growled, well, that was another kind of alarm clock. This may sound simple, but it worked. You could look at the color of the sky and tell the difference between almost lunchtime and almost evening. Eventually, patterns began to emerge. Humanity started keeping track, not with numbers but with careful noticing. Imagine yourself in ancient Egypt. The desert wind presses gently against your skin, dry and warm, and the sky is so open that the sun feels closer than anywhere else on Earth. There, tall obelisks stood in the sand. They weren't built just to look impressive. When the sun moved, the shadow crept slowly across the ground. By watching the shape and length of the shadow, people could guess the time. It wasn't precise, but it was enough to know when to gather, when to work, and when to rest. Or picture Babylon. It's evening. The air smells faintly of clay and baked bread. The moon rises, swollen and pale, and you watch its phases change night after night. The shape of the moon became a calendar anyone could read, just by looking up. Far to the east, in ancient China, a single drop of water falls from a bronze vessel into a bowl. Plink. Another drop. Plink. Each sound marks the passing of a small moment. No rush. Just water falling steadily, like the slowest heartbeat you can imagine. These were the first clocks. Shadows, moons, water. All of them gentle. Living inside a rhythm. You lie down in the grass now. It is cold at first, but the longer you stay, the warmer it feels, as if the ground is telling you, you belong here. Slow down. Think about this. There were no minutes back then. No alarms that go off at 6:30 a.m. because you promised to be at work at 9. There was only day and night. And within that, the soft, round cycle of seasons. Winter comes. You stay in. Spring arrives. You stretch your arms out, plant seeds, and watch things grow. Summer is a long exhale, heavy and warm. Autumn rolls in with its quiet gold, whispering, it's almost time to rest again. Time wasn't numbers. It was a heartbeat. And for a while, lying there in that field, you can almost feel your own heartbeat syncing with the sky. Imagine living without a single alarm clock. No meetings. No calendars. If you needed to meet someone, you would say, when the sun touches that hill. Or, after the stars appear. The world around you, the river, the forest, the sky, was your watch. And yet, even then, there were little debates. If one village decided to measure time by shadows and another by water dripping, you could end up meeting each other at slightly different times. So the very first arguments about time may have been between two people sitting by a fire saying, well, your shadow clock is wrong, my water clock says it's still early. When we tried to trap time. Humans are clever. Eventually we wanted more than just, the sun is high, so it must be midday. We wanted to measure. To hold time in our hands. We made sundials. We watched shadows crawl over carefully carved stone. We invented hourglasses so we could turn them upside down and literally watch time spill away one grain at a time. We built candle clocks, where a candle burned down and tiny marks on the wax told you how much time had passed. And then mechanical clocks. And that was the moment everything changed. Time became a grid. A box. No longer something that flowed, but something chopped into pieces. Suddenly, your life could be cut into seconds, each one the same size as the one before it. You could know exactly how long a speech was supposed to be, how far you could walk in an hour, how much work you could get done in a day. In some ways, this was wonderful. It made building cities, ships, railroads possible. But in other ways, it pulled us out of that soft, flowing rhythm and pinned us down with invisible nails. Tick, tock, tick, tock. You hear it now, faintly like an echo. And maybe, if you're honest with yourself, you realize it's been a long time since you've sat still without feeling like the clock is tapping you on the shoulder. Newton's neat and tidy time. For a while, the story seemed clear. Scientists, especially Isaac Newton, looked at the world and said, time is absolute. It moves forward like a river, steady and universal. It doesn't care who you are or where you are. It's the same everywhere. And you know what? That idea is comforting. Imagine a single giant clock above the universe, ticking away perfectly. You on Earth could trust it. An astronaut far away could trust it. Even someone living on a distant star could trust it. One river, one flow, one clock. But you know there's a but, don't you? You can feel it the way you can feel the breeze shifting directions. The question that sneaks in. As you lie there in the field, staring up at the fading stars, a quiet thought creeps in. What if that river isn't as steady as it looks? What if, the moment you leave Earth and come back, you discover that the time you thought was absolute has secretly twisted, stretched, bent around you? It's a soft question, like the kind that shows up when you're almost asleep. Not urgent, just curious. The sky is changing now. The silver on the horizon has spread wider, and the first hint of orange leaks into it. You can feel the temperature shift. It's less cold, like the whole planet is waking up. And you hold that question in your hands like a stone. Could time, this thing you thought was solid, actually be a little slippery? Breathing with the dawn. For now, you don't try to answer. You just breathe. You listen to the faraway sound of birds stretching their throats. You notice the faint warmth against your face as the sun peeks over the edge of the earth. The stars fade one by one until the sky becomes a pale, endless blue. And for a moment, before the world fills back up with noise and schedules, you can pretend you've stepped out of the ticking, numbered life we've built. Here there is only the slow rhythm of day replacing night, of night replacing day. You close your eyes and the field spins gently around you, and you sink a little deeper into that simple question. You lean gently against the rough bark of an ancient tree, one that has stood watch over this land for hundreds, perhaps thousands of years. Its sturdy trunk presses softly against your back, steady and unwavering, as if it holds the secrets of time itself in its rings buried deep underground. The sun filters through the leaves above you, sprinkling patches of warm light that dance slowly on your skin. A gentle breeze rustles the branches overhead, creating a soothing symphony, a natural lullaby that blends with the soft chirping of birds and the distant hum of the world waking up. You settle in comfortably, letting your body relax with the rhythm of the earth. As you close your eyes for a moment, the world around you becomes quieter, slower. It's here, beneath this ancient tree, that you invite the voice of a man long gone but whose ideas shape the way we think about time. Isaac Newton. Imagine Newton sitting beside you on the cool grass, his powdered wig catching glimmers of sunlight, his thoughtful gaze fixed somewhere beyond the horizon. His voice, calm and measured, begins to fill the space between the rustling leaves. Time, he says, is absolute. It flows uniformly and without regard to anything external. It moves forward evenly and steadily, like a river that never changes its pace, no matter where or how you travel. You picture that steady river flowing endlessly through the cosmos. To Newton, time is the backdrop against which everything unfolds, the stage where planets dance, stars blaze, and humans live and dream. This absolute time ticks away independently of anything else, the same for you leaning here by this tree, and for an astronaut orbiting the Earth or a scientist on a distant star. There is something comforting in this idea, isn't there? The thought that time is constant and reliable, that every second is a familiar friend marching in step with every other second across the entire universe. Your life, with its schedule of breakfasts, meetings, and bedtimes, fits neatly into this framework. But as you settle into the warm embrace of this idea, a tiny flicker of doubt sneaks into your mind, soft as a shadow under the tree's leaves. Could time be more flexible than this? Could it bend, slow, or even stretch depending on where you are or how fast you move? Before we answer, let's take a gentle stroll down the path of discovery, uncovering how science learned that time isn't quite as straightforward as Newton thought. The comfort of absolute time. Newton's view was the foundation for centuries of science and technology. For the longest time, it seemed obvious that time flowed like a perfect river, steady, universal, and unchanging. It's easy to understand why this idea took hold. After all, every day your watch ticks seconds that all feel equal. The sun rises and sets with a reliable rhythm. Seasons change predictably. You wake up, eat breakfast, work, relax, and sleep, all set by the steady pulse of this universal time. But the universe, as it turns out, doesn't always follow the rules we expect. The speed of light, a cosmic speed limit. Fast forward to the late 1800s. Scientists were obsessed with light, the fastest thing they knew. They wanted to understand how fast light traveled and if its speed changed depending on the observer's movement. Imagine standing on a train moving at full speed and throwing a ball forward. The ball's speed, as you'd expect, would be the speed of your throw plus the speed of the train. But when scientists measured light, something strange happened. No matter how fast they moved or where they looked from, the speed of light was always the same, about 300,000 kilometers per second. This was baffling. It meant that the normal rules for adding speeds didn't work for light. Einstein's revelation, time and space as a single fabric. Enter Albert Einstein in the early 1900s, who offered a radical idea. Time and space aren't separate. Instead, they're woven together into a single four-dimensional fabric called spacetime. Visualize spacetime as a vast, invisible quilt stretching across the cosmos. Massive objects like stars and planets sit on this quilt, pressing down and causing it to warp and curve. Imagine a heavy bowling ball placed on a trampoline. The trampoline dips under its weight. A marble rolling nearby doesn't travel in a straight line. It curves around the dip. Similarly, massive objects bend space-time, and time itself flows differently depending on where you are relative to these objects. Gravity's slow dance with time. This bending of space-time means gravity affects time. You've probably never thought of gravity changing the speed of time, but it does. Picture yourself lying on the moon's surface, staring up at Earth hanging in the black sky. You and someone on Earth are experiencing time slightly differently. Because Earth's gravity is stronger, time there actually ticks a tiny bit slower compared to your slower gravitational field on the moon. It's a minuscule difference but real. GPS satellites, everyday proof of time's flexibility. One of the most fascinating real-world examples of this comes from GPS satellites orbiting Earth. These satellites carry atomic clocks, the most precise clocks humans have created. They zip around Earth at high speeds and experience weaker gravity than you do on the ground. Because of their speed and altitude, their clocks tick slightly faster than those on Earth's surface. Without constant adjustments for this difference, your GPS would drift off by kilometers within a day, sending you to the wrong places entirely. So engineers program corrections to keep everything perfectly synced, a subtle but crucial dance of time. The twin paradox, time's curious effects on speed. Now, imagine you climb into a spaceship strapped tightly for a journey at nearly the speed of light. Inside, your watch ticks normally. Seconds pass as you expect. But back on Earth, decades slip away. If you return, you might find your twin has grown old while you've barely aged. This strange effect is known as the twin paradox, a mind-bending consequence of Einstein's relativity. Time isn't a universal river. It flows differently depending on speed. The elastic fabric of spacetime. The quilt of spacetime is elastic and dynamic. Stars, planets, and black holes tug and pull on it, changing the flow of time and bending light itself. Think about a black hole, an object so massive and dense that it creates a deep well in spacetime. Near its edge, time slows almost to a stop compared to far away. Imagine you're watching a clock near the event horizon of a black hole. From your distant vantage point, the clock ticks slower and slower, seeming to freeze. What's happening inside the black hole? Scientists still debate. Time, mystery, and the universe. Despite all we know, Time remains one of the universe's greatest mysteries. Is it continuous, flowing without breaks, or does it come in tiny, discrete units like atoms? Does time have a beginning and an end? Could time itself be an illusion, a trick of our consciousness? These questions remain open, gently teasing scientists to keep searching, resting in time's gentle embrace. As you lie back against the tree, you feel a calm warmth spreading through you. The breeze continues its lullaby. Your heartbeat slows to match the peaceful rhythm of the earth. You are part of this great cosmic dance, a tiny ripple on spacetime's vast ocean. Time isn't a harsh master but a flowing companion. Sometimes steady, sometimes stretched, but always there. You breathe in deeply, and as your eyelids flutter closed, you carry with you the comforting knowledge that time is as mysterious as it is familiar, and that maybe, just maybe, the greatest adventure lies in discovering how it truly flows. When space and time become friends, you leave the old tree behind, though it lingers in your memory like the aftertaste of something sweet and comforting. The clearing fades as though someone has gently turned down the brightness of the world. Colors soften, edges blur. Even the sound of leaves rustling becomes slower, like someone has turned the universe's metronome a few clicks down. You are floating now, though your feet are still on the ground. The boundary between up and down feels less important. Somewhere ahead, in this strange, softened clearing, you notice someone waiting for you. A silhouette, hunched a little, hair unruly as though it's been in a playful argument with gravity, and definitely won. Einstein. And he is doing something utterly peculiar, weaving the loom of nothing. You get closer, step by careful step. He sits cross-legged on a patch of grass as though this has been his spot forever, and in his hands there is nothing. Or maybe not nothing. Between his fingers, there are threads of something you can't quite name. They shine faintly like moonlight caught on a spider's web, but shift like the surface of a pond in summer. One strand shimmers blue, another warm and golden, a third translucent as if it's made of a whisper. Closer, he says without looking up, and his voice sounds like someone who has all the time in the world, which is ironic considering the subject. When you sit down opposite him, he finally glances at you with a half smile that feels like the universe has been keeping a secret just for you. These threads, he says, are space and time. They are not separate. They are companions. Watch. The fabric instead of a clock. His hands begin to move faster now, and it takes you a while to realize what he's doing. Loop over loop. Under and through. Like someone crocheting in slow motion, but with threads made of reality itself. People used to think, he says, that space was just a stage. Empty. So. And that time was a great invisible clock ticking somewhere off to the side. But they aren't like that. They don't stand apart. They move together always. You think back to Newton's river, the steady universal clockwork, and for a moment you almost miss its simplicity. But as you watch Einstein's fabric form, you start to feel why he replaced that neat, strict picture with something softer. The softness of the universe. Up close, the woven fabric is beautiful. It isn't flat. It breathes. When he pulls one thread, the others respond, rippling in gentle waves. Space and time, he says, are like this cloth. Every star, every planet, even you, presses on it and changes its shape. In turn, this shape decides how everything moves. You blink slowly. The idea that space could be bent, that time could slow and stretch because of that bend, feels like something out of a dream. Do you want to try? He asks. Your hand on the fabric. You hesitate, but curiosity wins. You reach out and lay your palm against the fabric. It is cool at first, like touching the surface of a river in early morning. But there is something else, something that has no word. A soft vibration like the hum of distant music. And just as he said, the fabric reacts. A faint ripple spreads outward from your touch, moving gently away as though the entire universe noticed you and said hello. You laugh because somehow, impossibly, it tickles. Even the smallest pebble makes a ripple, Einstein says with a shrug. That is what you are, a very small pebble in a very large pond. It sounds like an insult, but it doesn't feel like one. A valley in the cloth. Then he leans forward and places a glowing sphere in the middle of the fabric. The whole sheet dips inward just like that. This is the sun, he says. And as he lets go, the sphere stays there, heavy, shaping everything around it. Next, he takes a smaller sphere and rolls it gently near the sun. It curves, looping gracefully around the bigger sphere in a perfect ellipse. No invisible rope pulling it, no magic magnet, just the shape of the cloth itself. This is why Earth moves the way it does, he explains. It's just rolling along a curve. The neat Newtonian grid of lines and boxes you once imagined collapses in your mind. This feels so much more alive. Time bends too. But then he looks at you and says, remember, this is not only space bending. He pulls from nowhere a tiny clock, a lovely old-fashioned thing with hands that tick so softly you barely hear them. He places it right beside the sun. Its ticking slows. Then he places another clock far away from the sun, out on the fabric's edge. That one ticks faster. You tilt your head. Wait, the closer you are to something heavy, the slower time moves? Yes, he says, and the faster you travel, the more time itself stretches. It hits you all at once. Clocks don't agree everywhere. Time isn't absolute. Time listens. A journey on the ribbon. Close your eyes just for a moment. Now imagine stepping onto that fabric with both feet. It's no longer flat. There are hills and dips, slow valleys and steep pits, and you can glide on them. Each curve changes how fast your clock runs. A day on Earth, a day in orbit, a day near Jupiter. None of these are quite the same. They're all playing slightly different rhythms like different drummers in the same band. And yet, when you're living those moments, they feel normal. You never notice the difference until you look back. The ribbon unfurls. When you open your eyes again, Einstein is holding up the cloth. It has become longer, narrower, a ribbon now. It folds, it twists, he says softly. It stretches across the cosmos and everything moves along it. This ribbon is the story of everything. If you could see it from the outside, you'd see all paths at once. The ribbon flutters a little as though it's alive. You can almost hear it rustle like silk brushing across your fingertips. Beyond the ribbon, mystery. You ask, does the ribbon ever end? No one knows, he answers. Some think it might be infinite. Some think it folds back on itself. I like to imagine it as a song with no final note. We only ever hear the verse we are in. It's strange, so much uncertainty, and yet it feels peaceful. Maybe you don't need to know where the ribbon ends. It's enough to feel it flowing beneath your feet. How this changes everything. For a long while, you sit quietly as this new picture settles in your mind. The universe is not a stiff grid. It's a soft, flexible, woven thing. Everything, your thoughts, the grass beneath you, the stars overhead, is part of one fabric. And the way you move, the way Earth moves, the way galaxies swirl, all of it shapes and is shaped by this gentle ribbon. There is no absolute time here. No absolute space. Only their friendship holding each other close. The fabric fades. Slowly the ribbon begins to fade. The glow dims. The hum softens. Einstein looks at you with a kind of tired joy. Remember this, he says. The universe is softer than we thought. And so, maybe are we. He tucks the last loose strand behind your ear like a parent fixing a lock of hair. And then he's gone. The clearing returns. The old tree stands tall in the distance. But you can still feel that ribbon, invisible, cradling the space between every heartbeat. Gravity slows the cosmic clock. You are no longer sitting beside Einstein in that gentle clearing. The ribbon of space-time he wove has folded itself back into the air, leaving you with a soft hum still ringing in your thoughts. And as that hum fades, a different feeling rises, a sense of weightlessness, of letting go, as though gravity itself has loosened its hold. When you open your eyes, you're somewhere else. The world beneath you is no longer green. It is not blue or brown or even colorful. It is pale. A pale, endless gray, sprinkled with soft shadows. You have landed on the moon. Moonlight underfoot. Take a moment. Bend your knees a little. Press your boots into the lunar dust and feel how it doesn't quite behave like Earth. It's lighter. It clings a bit, as if the powdery surface is curious about you. And there's no wind to blow it away. No sound to follow your steps. Every tiny motion you make happens inside a bubble of silence. Even the dust that arcs up in slow motion falls back so gently that it almost feels staged. Then, because there's nothing else to do, you lie down, flat on your back, arms stretched out like a starfish, looking at the sky that isn't a sky at all. There is no blue, no haze, only a velvet black dome where Earth hangs like a brilliant glass marble. It's so still, so heartbreakingly still, that even your own breath feels loud. And you can hear your heart beating. The rhythm of your heart becomes the only clock that matters here. Looking up at Earth, do you see it? That round, shining world up there? All the places you've ever been, all the people you've ever met, the cities with glowing windows and the forests that sing when the wind blows, all of them are packed into that tiny sphere. From here, Earth doesn't look big. It looks small enough to cup in your hands. And yet it pulls at you. Not just with gravity, with longing, with something so familiar it makes you ache. Time on the moon versus time on Earth. But here's the strange thing. As you lie here on this gentle gray ground, time is not moving the same way it does back there. You might think a second is a second everywhere, but it isn't. The moon is farther from Earth's gravity. Gravity is weaker here. And the weaker the gravity, the less it stretches time. Which means, if you stayed here for years, the tiniest sliver of years, your time would move faster than someone who stayed on Earth. When you come back, your clocks wouldn't match. It's not much, only fractions of a second, but it is real. Why gravity slows time. Einstein's voice comes back to you as if he's still somewhere nearby. Wherever there is mass, space-time bends. And when space-time bends, it slows time. You picture Earth's mass pulling space-time inward, making a deep valley. The moon, farther out in that valley, doesn't feel the pull as strongly. Its clocks don't feel as much drag. Being in strong gravity is like walking through honey. Being away from it is like walking through air. The honey slows you down. Clock in the sand. Close your eyes and imagine this. You bury a small, perfect clock in the soft gray dust beside you. Another clock, identical, ticks back home on Earth. At first, both clocks seem the same. Second by second, they march together. But as weeks pass, the difference starts to appear. It's tiny, so tiny that you need the most careful instruments to see it, but it's there. Here on the moon, the clock ticks a little faster. On Earth, deep in the gravity well, time is held back just a little by the pull of the planet. Satellites that need to apologize. And this is not just a poetic idea. It's something you can prove with machines. Think of the satellites orbiting Earth right now. They carry atomic clocks so precise they can measure time to billionths of a second. But those clocks drift, and they drift for two reasons. One, they're higher up where gravity is weaker. Two, they're moving fast and speed slows time too. Both effects pull in opposite directions, and the difference is enough to confuse our maps. If scientists didn't constantly correct for this, your phone might tell you to turn left into a wall. Every day, those satellites are whispering little apologies, adjusting themselves, saying, "Sorry, our time isn't your time. Let us fix it." A thought experiment. Imagine this. You and your twin are born on Earth at the same moment. One day you decide to live here on the moon. Your twin stays home. Years pass. When you come back, you are just a fraction of a second older than your twin, because your time moved slightly faster out here. It's not enough to notice, not enough to make anyone jealous, but it's proof that the cosmos doesn't treat everyone equally. Gravity has been tugging on your twin's seconds the whole time. The quiet pull. As you keep staring at Earth, you start to feel that pull, not just in physics but in your chest. It's a strange kind of hug from 384,000 kilometers away. Down there, everything is running a tiny bit slower because the pull is stronger. Every second is stretched. Every moment slightly delayed. Bigger gravity, bigger effect. And what if you were somewhere heavier? Imagine being close to Jupiter. It's a giant planet with so much gravity that you'd feel it in every step, in every heartbeat. Your seconds there would stretch even more. Take it further. A neutron star. A black hole. Places where the pull is so intense that time slows almost to a stop. There, a minute for you could mean hundreds of years outside. Science still can't explain it all. For all the math and all the experiments, scientists still don't know why gravity bends time. They know how it works, but not why. They can write equations. They can make predictions. But deep down, there's still a question mark. It's one of those mysteries that hums quietly in the background, like a lullaby from the universe. Falling asleep in slow time. Now lie there again. Flat on your back. Look up at Earth. The way its clouds move silently. The way the oceans swirl like paint. The way continents glow faintly with city lights on the night side. Listen to your own breath. The slow inhale. The slower exhale. Here, with weaker gravity, you are just a little bit ahead of the seconds down there. You can almost imagine watching them crawl, watching their clocks drag behind like stubborn luggage. And suddenly you realize, it doesn't matter. Not right now. Because in this moment you are just here. Suspended between one heartbeat and the next, with all of time stretched out like soft fabric beneath you. A different kind of clock. Maybe this is the real clock. Not numbers or ticking hands. Not even satellites adjusting themselves over and over. Maybe the true clock is the quiet pull of Earth above you and the gentle light reflecting off the lunar dust around you. It beats in your chest, in that soft, slow rhythm, a reminder that time flows but it never has to rush. And then you breathe. You breathe out one more time, slower than before. Gravity doesn't pull as hard here. Even your breath feels lighter. And with that breath, the cosmic clock ticks on gently. Seconds stretch. Thoughts dissolve. And for a little while, lying there on the moon, you drift, quiet and free, from one moment to the next. Faster you go, slower you age. The moon fades behind you. The gray dust, the silence, the fragile blue glow of Earth in the sky, all of it grows smaller and smaller until it is only a faint memory pressed like a dried flower between the pages of your thoughts. You are moving again. Not drifting lazily this time, but with purpose. A sleek ship, silver like a comet's tail, has found you. Its airlock opens without a sound, like a mouth forming an invitation. Come inside. The ship that waits. Inside, the ship is quiet, warm, and faintly humming with a heartbeat of its own. It is not large, more like a cozy room than a palace, but there is something comfortable about it. The walls curve gently around you as if they were grown instead of built, and everything smells faintly like ozone, that sharp scent of lightning before a summer storm. You sit in the pilot's seat. The seat molds around you, holding you in place as if it has been waiting centuries just for you. The controls don't look like buttons. They look like smooth glass, as though the ship expects you to talk to it with your fingertips. Acceleration. And then it begins. Slow at first, like someone pulling on a string. Your body feels the pressure of speed curling around it. Out the window, stars start to stretch, turning into fine white threads. You don't feel like you're flying through space anymore. You feel like you're pulling space itself toward you, folding it closer and closer. And with that speed, a strange awareness comes over you. Time itself begins to feel different. Speed's invisible hand. If gravity can stretch time, speed can do something just as strange. It slows your own personal clock. As you race forward faster and faster, you start to feel it, an invisible hand pressing gently on your seconds, pulling them long and slow. Back on Earth, seconds are dripping like water from a faucet. Here in your ship, they feel like honey. The twin paradox. Scientists have a name for this: time dilation. And it leads to one of the most famous thought experiments. Two twins. One stays home. The other climbs into a ship like this one and travels close to the speed of light. When the traveling twin finally comes back, they are younger. Not just in spirit but literally. Their clock has ticked slower. They have experienced less time. This is not fantasy. It is something confirmed with real measurements. Your own clock slowing down. Imagine looking at the little clock strapped to your wrist. You can still see the hands ticking, still hear that faint tick tick tick. But if someone on Earth could peek through your window, they would see that same ticking move more slowly than their own. To you, everything seems normal. Your heart beats normally, your thoughts wander at their usual pace. But out there, away from your ship, time is running ahead without you. Earth moving on without you. And that's when the first pang of loneliness strikes. Because as you glance back over your shoulder, back toward Earth, you realize that while only a year might pass for you here, decades might flow for the people you love. Cities will rise. Oceans will shift. People will age. And all the while, your seconds will still be stretching thin, floating slow like feathers caught in a breeze. The stars bend. The faster you go, the stranger the view outside your window becomes. At first, stars smear slightly, their colors sharpening into blue at the front and reddening at the sides. The constellations that were once familiar, the Big Dipper, Orion's belt, start to distort as if the universe itself is being painted fresh every moment. Then, as you go faster still, the stars ahead of you grow fewer. Not because they're gone, but because your speed is folding light in such a way that all of it seems to be rushing toward you like rain on a windshield. Relativity is personal. Einstein warned that time isn't universal. It belongs to the path you take. So here you are, taking a path no one else on Earth is taking. And because of that, your experience of time is now completely your own. The seconds in this ship are not the same seconds on the ground. It's as if the universe has quietly written you a different calendar. The astronauts' proof. This isn't just theory. Astronauts on the International Space Station move fast enough that their clocks tick a little slower than ours on Earth. When they return home, they have literally aged less, by a tiny, tiny fraction of a second. It's so small you'd never see it in a mirror, but the math sees it. And if you take this speed to the extreme, if you go close to light speed, that small difference turns into something enormous. Imagine visiting the future. You close your eyes for a moment. When you open them, you imagine this. You keep going faster and faster, almost at light speed. You decide to travel for just 5 years. But when you finally slow down and look back at Earth, you realize 50 years have passed there. The streets you once knew have changed. The people you loved are older. And you, still only 5 years older, step into a world that has skipped ahead without you. It's like sleeping and waking up to a world that has been dreaming for half a century. How does it feel? There's a bittersweetness to this. On one hand, it's a miracle. You can, in a way, move into the future. You can skip the boring parts. On the other, you miss so much. Time, it seems, has a sense of humor. The faster you run, the more it lets everyone else rush ahead without you. The science still has questions. Even though this effect has been measured and confirmed, scientists are still working on the deepest understanding of why speed changes the way time flows. We know it's about the shape of space-time, about how energy bends reality. But exactly how it all ties into the smallest scales of the universe, the quantum world, is still an open question. Slow breath, fast ship. You glance at your hands, then at your reflection in the glass. You don't look any older than you were yesterday. Your breath still fogs the window when you exhale. And yet, out there, far behind you, the world is rushing forward in ways you can't keep up with. You are both racing ahead and standing still. The universe in two tempos. Close your eyes again and listen. In one ear, the slow rhythm of your own heart. In the other, the quick ticking of Earth's busy clocks. Two rhythms, both true, both valid, both belonging to the same universe. And as the ship hums around you, you realize that you have learned something strange and comforting. There is no single speed for life. Not for planets, not for stars, not for you. Letting go. Finally, you take a deep breath and let the ship carry you, weightless, into a future that only you will experience in this way. You watch the stars drift by. You watch time stretch. And for a while, you simply float between one heartbeat and the next, between two different worlds. One racing forward without you, and one waiting patiently for you to arrive. You leave the solar system, drifting into the black beyond. The stars become like scattered candles. And here, in this deep silence, time begins to feel wide and soft and strange. You are floating. The engines have stopped humming. The control panels have dimmed. There's no ticking, no beeping, no familiar heartbeat of machinery. Just silence. Perfect, heavy silence. Outside the window, the sun has faded to a bright dot. It no longer commands your sky, it simply glows like any other star. The solar system is behind you now. The planets you once knew, the asteroid belts, the dances of moons around gas giants. All of it shrinking into memory. You are coasting peacefully into what lies beyond. It's colder here. Not because the temperature has dropped. Your ship keeps you warm. But the silence is cold. The emptiness feels vast and ancient and echoing. You wrap your blanket tighter, not against the chill, but against the enormity of where you are. This is interstellar space. You've left behind the magnetic shields of the sun's influence. There is no more solar wind buffering the edges. Just the thin breath of the galaxy, whispering against your ship's hull. You are now a quiet seed drifting in the ocean of the Milky Way. And here time begins to feel different. The stars grow sparse. In your childhood, you looked up at the night sky and saw constellations. Orion, the Big Dipper, maybe even the Milky Way as a faint blur across the heavens. But now, you see stars like never before. They don't twinkle here. That was Earth's atmosphere playing with their light. Out here, they shine steadily, each one a sharp, cold point in the velvet. Some glow blue, burning hot and young. Others are yellow like your sun. And a few are dim, ancient red embers nearing the end of their light. There's more darkness between them than you expected. A thick, inky black. The stars are not crowded together like in science fiction posters. They are lonely, scattered, separated by gulfs of light years. The vastness between each star could swallow 1,000 Earths. And in that darkness, time feels slower. Or maybe not slower, just unmeasured, unanchored. You realize something. Without the spinning Earth, without the rising and setting sun, without the ticking of clocks, what is time? Just the quiet stretching of moments. Time becomes texture. You drift to the observation dome and lie on the reclined chair. Through the glass, you stare into the blackness. Feels like staring into a slow-moving dream. Your thoughts stretch out. There is no urgency. There is no calendar. There is only now. A thick, molasses-like now that stretches, coils, and drifts like the gravity waves that pulse invisibly around you. You think of what Einstein said, time is not separate from space. They are woven together like threads in a cloth. The farther you move from massive objects, the Earth, the sun, the less that fabric is pulled. And so, time here doesn't feel stretched or strained. It simply is. Like a lake with no ripples. Back home, clocks race. Heartbeats flutter. Shadows move across sidewalks. But here, no shadows shift. Nothing hurries. Not even your thoughts. Your heartbeat slows in sympathy. Your body a clock. Time is still inside you though. Your heart ticks. Your lungs expand and contract. Your circadian rhythm, trained by the rise and fall of the sun, is drifting, unsure of what part of the day it is. Your body tries to remember how to count. You eat at intervals, sleep at intervals, but it's hard to keep track. Days don't happen here. Nights don't either. Just the gentle artificial glow of your ship's lights, the hum of recycling air, the warmth of the blanket across your lap. You check your wrist. The digital clock says day 87, but it feels like day 3 or maybe day 300. You're not sure anymore. The number means less and less. And then you smile. Because maybe that's the point. Maybe you've reached a place where time is not a tyrant. The silence of deep space. Outside, the silence is perfect. On Earth, silence is never truly silent. There's wind or birds or distant traffic. Even in a quiet bedroom, there's the murmur of pipes, the settling of wood, the ticking of a wall clock. But out here, no air, no medium for sound, just absolute stillness. Your ship, though gently gliding at tens of thousands of kilometers per hour, feels like it's standing still. There's no friction, no road, just blackness ahead, blackness behind. And inside that silence, you feel something surprising. Peace, maybe even awe. This is not the silence of absence. It's the silence of potential, of mystery, of everything still waiting to be discovered. And it gives you time, not in seconds or minutes, but in space, to breathe, to be. You become the clock. Floating in the observation chair, you begin to realize you are now the measure of time. There are no alarms to wake you, no news cycles, no meetings or bells. Your own heartbeat becomes the most honest metronome. Slow, regular, reassuring. You breathe in, hold, breathe out. You blink, stretch, sleep. Time is now something you carry with you, like a warm stone in your pocket. It is internal, felt, not forced. And when you let go of trying to track it, a strange calm arrives. There is no past chasing you, no future rushing in. Just this long, luxurious present. This is not eternity. It's something gentler. Duration without demand. A message from Earth. One morning, or what you decide to call morning, a soft chime echoes through your ship. A signal. A transmission. It's a message from Earth. It's taken 15 hours to get here, traveling at the speed of light. The screen flickers to life. You see a blue sky. Trees, a face you know. They're smiling, waving, talking slowly like you're far away. And you are. The transmission is dated 2 days ago. You listen. You wave back, forgetting they won't see it until tomorrow. And just like that, you feel time's thread stretch. What is now when a conversation takes 2 days to happen? When your smile won't arrive until they've already moved on? When your tears arrive after their embrace has ended? You shut the screen, heart tender. Out here, the present is no longer a shared space. It has become a lonely privilege. The clock of light. You begin to track time not by ticking clocks, but by light. Each star you pass tells a different story. That blue-white one? Its light left when woolly mammoths roamed. That red one? Its glow began long before the pyramids. You realize something. When you look at the stars, you are looking backward in time. Even your own sun, if you glance toward that bright dot, is showing you light that left 8 minutes ago. Every photon is a tiny time capsule, crossing darkness just to reach your eyes. Light becomes your new calendar. And you are the receiver of millennia. It humbles you. You are used to being so immediate, so right now. But now you see how ancient the universe really is, and how softly it speaks. Gravity's gentle absence. Out here, gravity doesn't hold you anymore. Back on Earth, gravity made time tug harder. In valleys, clocks ran just a tiny bit slower than on mountaintops. Even GPS satellites have to adjust for that difference every day. Einstein taught you that gravity stretches and slows time. But now, you float far from stars, far from planets. In this lightless expanse, there is no significant gravity, and so time feels looser, less curved, less manipulated. Your clock ticks at near its true rate. The fabric of space-time isn't being pulled or warped around you. Instead, it's like a calm lake, unbothered, flat, wide, slow. You imagine what it would be like to never return to gravity, to live where time is always gentle, where it's never pressed down by mass or obligation. You are a ghost in the galaxy. Weeks, maybe months, pass. You lose count. You've become like a ghost, gliding between stars. Your ship no longer feels like a vessel. It feels like a second skin. The hiss of recycled air, the low hum of the reactor, the distant creak of cooling metal, all of it becomes your lullaby. And out there, the stars barely move. You know you're traveling quickly, faster than any human before you, but there's no reference point. Just the eternal canvas. You start dreaming of stillness. Not the stillness of fear, but the stillness of acceptance, of timelessness. Perhaps this is what monks once sought in their stone cells. A place where the soul stops rushing. You pass the Voyager. One day your ship's sensors ping. You're passing close to something tiny, ancient, man-made. You steer toward it gently and peer through the glass. There it is. Voyager 1. Launched in 1977, older than you, older than many cities on Earth. It's still out here, tumbling slowly, broadcasting faint signals home. It has seen no humans since it left. And now you see it. Its gold record still bolted to the side, still bearing its message to the stars. Hello from the children of planet Earth, it says in 55 languages. You place your palm on the glass. For a moment, two human crafts meet in the silence of interstellar space. Decades apart in birth, generations apart in design, but now sharing the same timeless emptiness. And again you feel time unfurl. Not as something moving forward, but as something that holds layers. Memory, echo, loneliness, connection. You whisper, you made it. Then you drift on. The music of time. You begin to notice something strange. Every now and then, a pattern in the ship systems. A flutter in the hum. A shift in the blinking lights. You think it's nothing, but it keeps happening. Until one day you realize it's music. Not music in the usual sense. There are no instruments, no lyrics, but the rhythm, the repetition, is unmistakable. The pulse of the engine, the intervals of solar panel recharging, the breathing cycle of your sleep system, the whisper of oxygen valves, all of it forming a quiet symphony. And it dawns on you, even here where time feels unanchored, life creates rhythm. Your body, your mind, your ship, they all insist on patterns, on heartbeat and breath, on rest and wake, on sound and silence. This music is not written in notes. It is written in need. You begin to hum along softly. You are part of the song now, the shadow of the nebula. Sometime later, if later still means anything, you come across a nebula. A soft cloud of color blooming in the darkness. Red and violet, cobalt and gold. Like a sleeping firework. It stretches for light years, barely moving, barely changing. But to you it feels alive. Your ship slows. You float, observing. You think about how this cloud was once a star, a giant, the sun, and it died, exploded, scattered its ashes into the black. And now, even in death, it is making beauty. You feel oddly comforted. The universe is not afraid of transformation. Let's go. Changes form. Waits. Begins again. Inside the nebula, new stars will be born. New planets. New chances. You whisper, "Thank you," and move on. The meaning of waiting. You spend a long time thinking about waiting. It used to frustrate you. Lines. Traffic. Deadlines. Refreshing the page. Waiting for messages. For approval. For something to change. But here, in the quiet beyond, you have learned that waiting is not wasted. It is where noticing happens. Where memory unfolds. Where soft things surface. Where you stop chasing time and let it circle around you like a cat in the dark. Waiting becomes your form of prayer. You're not praying for anything. Just praying as being. As attention. As stillness. Maybe this is what time wants from us. Not efficiency. Not conquest. But presence. When time stops needing numbers. One morning, again the word barely matters, you stop marking time. You delete the ship's internal calendar. You shut off the mission clock. You stop checking how long until the next milestone. And a strange thing happens. You don't feel lost. You feel free. Time still moves. But it's no longer a grid. It's a tide. A flow. You move with it like kelp in a slow current. You eat when you're hungry. Sleep when you're tired. Create when the mood stirs you. The universe does not keep office hours. Why should you? You begin to wonder. What would Earth be like if no one wore watches? If children never learned what year they were born? The birthdays were just memories, not countdowns? You smile at the thought. Maybe that's how stars live. You begin to glow. Something changes in you. You don't notice it at first. But over time, ironically, it becomes clear. You begin to glow. Not literally, but in your presence, in your calm, in how you carry yourself. You feel it when you speak aloud. When you laugh unexpectedly at your own jokes. When you cry without panic. It's as though the universe has polished you, like a stone in a river, not worn down, but smooth. You think of all the people on Earth, rushing, racing, scrambling to squeeze more into their minutes. And here you are, floating in a place where a day has no edge and every second stretches wide. You feel sorry for time sometimes, for how we've tried to cage it, monetize it, weaponize it. But out here you've given it back its dignity. Home is a direction, not a place. Eventually you feel a tug, not from gravity, from memory, a quiet longing, a dream of footsteps, of wet grass, of coffee steam and conversation, of touch. You realize you want to go home, not because you're lonely, but because you have something to bring back. A new rhythm, a new softness, a new patience. You start to program the course. It will take years. The same years that once scared you. But now you see time differently. As a companion, not a burden. As a blanket, not a ticking bomb. You turn the ship gently. The stars begin to shift. You whisper into the silence. See you soon. And in that moment, time smiles. Closing whisper. Time does not always tick. Sometimes it sighs. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it glows in the dark, like a lighthouse in a sea of silence. And sometimes when we drift far enough and quiet down long enough, we hear it breathing with us. Mars and the clock that runs fast. You wander in red dust and realize that because gravity is weaker, time on Mars runs just a little faster. Days here feel strangely light. It begins with silence. Not the kind you find on Earth, where the hush is merely the absence of conversation. No. This is a silence that feels ancient, like the breathless hush that lingers after something immense has just passed, and something even larger has yet to arrive. You open your eyes. Red. Everything is red. Not the aggressive red of warning lights or alarms, but a muted, thoughtful red. The kind of red that has been waiting here for centuries, slowly softening in the Martian dust. You are standing on Mars. The ground beneath your feet is covered in a powdery layer of ochre and cinnamon-colored soil, kicked up in delicate clouds with every gentle step you take. The sky overhead is a soft butterscotch hue, like daylight filtered through old parchment. The sun, smaller than you remember, glows like a pale coin behind a thin veil of haze. Here, the gravity is only about a third of what it is on Earth. You feel it immediately. Your limbs are lighter, movements easier, like you've been relieved of some invisible burden. You bounce just slightly as you walk. Even your thoughts feel a bit buoyant. And with every step you begin to feel time shifting. Not in any dramatic way, there are no clocks melting or seconds stretching into hours. It's subtler than that. But it's there. The sense that time is moving just a little bit faster here. Not rushing, not racing, just light-footed. Like the planet itself is tiptoeing forward in time while Earth trudges behind, weighed down by its heavier pull. You pause beside a boulder, smooth, wind-worn, and ancient. You run your hand over it slowly. This rock has been here for millions of years, unmoved, untouched by rain or rivers. Only the whisper of wind has shaped it, polishing it into something almost tender. You sit down beside it and look up at the sky, wondering, what does it mean for time to be faster? Let's sit with that question a while. The lighter pull of Mars. On Earth, gravity holds everything tightly. Clocks tick in sync with that pull, precise, predictable. But here on Mars, gravity loosens its grip. Let's go just a little. And when gravity eases, time relaxes. According to Einstein's theory of general relativity, time passes more slowly in stronger gravitational fields. That means that closer to a massive object, like Earth, time is dragged down slightly like a heavy coat slowing your stride. But on Mars? Mars is smaller, lighter. Its mass only a tenth of Earth's, and its gravity about 38% of what you're used to. That means clocks here tick just a bit faster. Not enough to notice in a single day, not unless you're an atomic clock, but over long stretches of time, that difference becomes measurable. If you stayed here long enough, if you lived your whole life in the Martian dust, you'd age just a hair faster than your twin back on Earth. Not in a way you'd ever feel. But in the math, in the numbers that scientists love so much, you'd be the older one. Strange, isn't it? That a planet could age you differently, not because of its air or its food or its sun, but because of the way it tugs on time itself. A lighter kind of day. Mars has its own rhythm. A Martian day, called the Sol, is about 24 hours and 39 minutes long. Almost the same as Earth, but not quite. That extra 39 minutes might not sound like much, but it adds up. Over the course of a few weeks, your schedule would start drifting, your bedtime slipping further from the Earth clock. NASA engineers who operate Martian rovers have felt this effect keenly. Some of them live on Mars time during missions, setting their alarms to Martian dawn, eating meals when the rover does, going to bed when the Martian sun sets. After just a few weeks, their days no longer align with the rest of us. They become slightly out of sync, like astronauts tethered to another world. You wonder, sitting here in the thin Martian air, what that must feel like. To live by a different sun. To feel the pull of a different gravity. To grow older by a different beat. The wind picks up around you, not fierce, just present. It carries the scent of rust, if rust could have a scent in such a thin, dry atmosphere. Dust skitters across the surface like dry leaves. Time, too, seems to scurry ahead of you here. Not urgently, just steadily, and suddenly you feel it, the weightlessness of time. You pass an outcropping of ruddy stone, its surface streaked with ancient scars. Some were carved by the whispering Martian winds, others by human wheels, rovers that came before you, now silent and resting in the dust like loyal dogs awaiting their master's return. You find a small rise and sit there, your boots leaving a crescent-shaped imprint in the fine regolith. The sky above you is not blue but a soft, diluted butterscotch, colored by iron particles forever floating in the thin air. The sun is smaller here, just a bright coin, and yet, despite its diminutive appearance, you feel time dancing a little more freely in this place. Your thoughts float upward, trailing behind invisible threads of physics. Mars has less mass than Earth, just a little more than a tenth. Its gravity is only about 38% of what you're used to. This means more than your bounding footsteps and longer jumps. It means time, ever the obedient servant of mass and motion, ticks faster here. Faster by just a whisper, of course. If you stayed on Mars for a year, Earth would outpace you by a handful of milliseconds. Barely noticeable. And yet, it matters. The universe is a miser with its seconds, and it is in these tiny fractions that the drama of time unfolds. You picture a clock on Earth ticking gently, and now a clock on Mars, ticking just a hair faster. It is as if Mars is in a mild hurry, while Earth sighs and stretches each moment. This discrepancy is not due to haste but to freedom. Freedom from the tug of gravity. Gravity, that quiet puppeteer of time, has loosened its grip here. The Martian surface lets time glide more smoothly, like a violin string played with a lighter hand. You think of all the machines humans have sent here, insight, curiosity, perseverance, how their onboard clocks must be constantly corrected. The dance between Earth time and Mars time is not only poetic but practical. Mission Control must compensate for the red planet's subtle rebellion against Earth's rhythm. Even now, as you sit among rocks older than recorded history, a signal from Earth bounces its way toward an orbiting satellite above you, arriving just a touch early because Mars is generous with time. Then you remember something delightful: the soul. Mars doesn't divide its days the same way Earth does. A Martian day, the soul, is about 24 hours and 39 minutes long. Just enough to feel familiar and just different enough to feel alien. Many scientists who've worked with Mars missions adjust their own sleep schedules to match this new rhythm. You imagine someone in Pasadena eating breakfast at 3 a.m., because that's when Martian noon arrives for their rover. They live in the fast zone, sync to a world where gravity and time have struck a different deal. You close your eyes and breathe in the stillness. No wind, no bird song, no sound at all really. Just you, your own breath inside the helmet, and the slow heartbeat of a world learning to host life. And yet, somewhere in this silence, there's a promise. Mars isn't barren, it's waiting. Waiting for roots to sink into its soil, for voices to echo in its canyons, for clocks to be built on its hillsides. You imagine a child born on Mars, decades from now. They'll grow up in a dome, running in light gravity, adjusting naturally to the Martian soul. Their body will be tuned to these slightly longer days, their minds shaped by this slightly quicker time. And when they visit Earth someday, if they do, they may feel everything a little too heavy, too rushed, too loud. Time, for them, will never quite return to its original rhythm. You smile at the thought, how geography shapes our sense of time. On Earth, it's shaped by culture and climate. Coffee breaks in Madrid feel longer than meetings in Tokyo. But in space, it's gravity that decides how your days flow. You rise again, brushing dust from your gloves. In the distance, Olympus Mons towers like a myth, nearly 3 times as tall as Everest, its flanks so gentle and wide that they could fool the eye. You begin walking toward it, even though it's hundreds of kilometers away, just for the sensation of having it on your horizon. With each step, you feel lighter, not just because of the gravity but because of time itself. You are part of a different clock now. Not an escape from time, but a recalibration. A gentle reminder that what we feel as normal is always, in truth, relative. And in that relativity, in that cosmic generosity, there is a kind of peace. Time is not just a measurement, it is a texture, a flavor, a feeling. Here on Mars, it tastes lighter, like powdered sugar caught on your tongue. And so you walk slowly and time walks with you, just a bit faster than it would have back on Earth. You drift through space in silence, your ship gliding like a feather caught in the currents of a cosmic tide. Ahead looms Jupiter, an immense and storm-swirled giant, a planet so vast that it could swallow over 1,000 Earths, yet it dances across the sky with a kind of terrible grace. It is not solid ground that greets you, but clouds. Endless roiling clouds, amber, ochre, crimson. Bands that ripple and clash in a storm of color, circling the planet in great belts that seem to pulse with energy. The moment you enter Jupiter's gravitational pull, you feel it, not physically, not in a jolt or a pull, but in time itself. The seconds grow heavy. The clock on your ship ticks the same way it always does, but you sense something beneath it, like a deep hum, as if each moment is dragging a weight behind it. Time here is thicker, slower. Every second, a small act of resistance. Jupiter's gravity is more than 2.5 times that of Earth. And though you're not walking on its cloud-tossed surface, the effects of this immense mass stretch far beyond the planet itself. The very fabric of space-time bends more deeply here. Einstein's general theory of relativity tells us that gravity isn't just a force, it's a curvature in space-time. And the greater the mass, the deeper the well it creates. So here, near this swirling titan, time slows. From a distance, the difference is imperceptible. But measured precisely, by atomic clocks aboard satellites, or in the faint ticking of neutrinos moving through space, the seconds you experience here are a shade longer than those felt back on Earth. If someone were watching you from a control room in orbit around Earth, they'd see you moving just a little slower. Not in speed but in time. Your clock runs fractionally behind theirs. A day on Earth might pass and here for you just a sliver less. It's a strange thing to be aware of. Not enough to make you feel older or younger. Not enough to cause dizziness or confusion. But enough to make you feel heavy. Not in your body, your ship's artificial gravity keeps you stable. But in your thoughts, in your minutes, each passing moment feels a little more substantial. The silence between words grows longer. The beat between heartbeats seems to echo. You begin to think of time as a physical thing, like syrup poured slowly, like molasses dragged over cold glass. And Jupiter spins. It is the fastest spinning planet in the solar system, completing one rotation every 10 hours. Its storms are ancient, some perhaps older than all of human civilization. The most famous, of course, is the Great Red Spot, an oval storm larger than Earth, raging for over 350 years, maybe longer. As you hover above its rim, you wonder what it would be like to stand there. If such a place could be stood upon. If you could somehow plant your feet on the upper edge of that tempest and let it pull you into its spiral. But Jupiter has no surface, not like Earth or Mars. Beneath its clouds lie deeper clouds and below them clouds still. Then liquid metallic hydrogen, so compressed it acts almost like a metal. And deeper still, perhaps a solid core, perhaps not. We're not certain. The pressure is too great for instruments to survive long. Jupiter guards its secrets well. What we do know is this: the gravity here does not merely affect time. It crushes. A human standing unprotected anywhere near Jupiter's core would be flattened in an instant. Even your ship, engineered for deep space travel, would not survive a plunge into its depths. But here in this calm band of orbit you're safe. Floating. Observing. And thinking about hours. On Earth, an hour is a thing we often forget to feel. It's a unit for appointments, a block on calendars, a deadline, a reminder. But here, an hour feels like something you could hold in your hands. Something with shape and density. You imagine trying to lift it, just one Jupiter hour, and find it heavier than you thought. Not a burden exactly, but a presence. You drift through the outer bands, past cyclones the size of continents. Each one spins with a fury that belies the cold. The sunlight here is dim, filtered through nearly 5 times the distance from the sun as Earth. Shadows move slowly. The light is golden and pale, soft like afternoon sun near winter's edge. You watch it glint off clouds that churn endlessly, forming patterns never seen before and never to be repeated. Jupiter is always changing. And yet, its slowness makes that change feel eternal. Time here is not just measured. It's expressed in the longevity of storms, in the compression of hydrogen, in the bending of light. Your onboard computer pings softly, a reminder that though you are still, everything else moves. The moons of Jupiter, dozens of them, dance around you. Io with its volcanic tantrums. Europa, cloaked in ice, whispering hints of oceans below. Ganymede, largest of all, and Callisto, ancient and cratered. They orbit not just the planet but its time-warping mass. Each feels the drag of gravity. Each measures time slightly differently. And you, floating between them, become a kind of traveler not just in space but in temporal nuance. It's humbling, because in this moment, you realize just how local our sense of time is. The seconds we take for granted on Earth, built on rotations, on days and years, are not fixed laws but habits, convenient conventions. Here on Jupiter they are politely ignored. Time has its own rhythms, its own moods. You look down at the clouds again. They ripple like music slowed to a crawl. Not silent, but so deep that sound itself would travel sluggishly, if at all. You can imagine what the storms would sound like if you could hear them, deep, thunderous growls stretched across kilometers, resonating like the breath of a god sleeping fitfully. You don't feel afraid, just small and grateful, because somehow the weight of Jupiter's hours has made your own feel more real. You begin to reflect on Earth time, on how it rushes, on how it slips through fingers like sand. We chase it, waste it, curse it, measure it, but do we feel it? Do we ever sit still long enough to notice what an hour is? Here, in the hush above Jupiter, you do. You feel the weight of an hour as a gift. You take out your notebook, or its digital twin, whatever tool you carry for thoughts, and you write. Time is not one river, but many. On Earth, it flows quick and thin like a stream over rocks. But here, above Jupiter, it thickens, like fog over valleys or oil on canvas. It slows not to punish, but to remind, to show that even time must kneel before mass, before gravity. And in doing so, it teaches us to notice it again, to respect the miracle of one long second. You pause. The silence around you is deep, not empty, full of waiting, of patience, of stormlight and unseen depth, full of moons turning in paths older than history, full of time that bends around a giant. You watch the great red spot swirl, and you let the heavy hour pass through you, not rushed, not wasted, just lived. You drift now in the golden hush beneath Saturn. Everything is slow here. Not just because your engines are off and your ship is coasting in the quiet ballet of orbit, but because the world around you insists on slowness. The way Saturn rotates, quick and deep like a breath held in too long, the way its rings cast shadows across its pale yellow skin, the way the stars behind it blink like they're blinking in a different universe. Saturn does not rush. Saturn waits. Even time itself seems reluctant to move here. You check your onboard clock. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3. They tick by. But your body doesn't believe them. Your mind floats like the fine particles of ice and dust that make up the rings. A trillion frozen flakes, each no bigger than a snowball or as large as a bus, circling endlessly in an ancient choreography. You're watching a slow-motion whirlpool of eternity. When you were a child, you probably saw pictures of Saturn in a school book, its iconic rings perfectly flat like someone drew them on with a silver pen. But here, up close, you realize they're not flat at all. They ripple and warp slightly like ribbons of frost in a breeze. Some of them tilt. Some shimmer. Some disappear altogether when the sunlight hits them from the wrong angle. It's not one ring. It's millions of tiny paths. It's music written without notes. Your ship drifts through the Cassini division, a dark gap between the rings, named after the astronomer who first noticed the space between them. But what seems like a void is still full of frozen wanderers. Chunks of ice, fragments of ancient moons, dust that's been dancing here for 4 billion years. They don't crash. They don't collide. They just swirl in their assigned places, moving with the grace of 1,000 synchronized swimmers. It's hard to believe they're governed by gravity, something so fierce, so relentless. Here, gravity becomes poetry. And Saturn's gravity is powerful. So powerful that even time stretches in its presence. You remember Einstein's gentle warning: the stronger the gravity, the slower time flows. Saturn doesn't have the crushing gravity of a black hole, no. But it has enough mass to dip the fabric of space-time just slightly, like a marble on a stretched sheet. Clocks aboard your ship run infinitesimally slower than those floating far away in space. It's a difference so small, it's almost meaningless. Almost. But out here, in the language of stars, even small differences echo. Saturn's moons, Titan and Enceladus, Mimas, each orbit with their own rhythms, locked in gravitational dances with their giant host. And each carries its own version of time, bent ever so slightly by the tug of Saturn's enormous mass. If you stayed here long enough, years perhaps, you'd find that people on Earth had aged just a hair more than you had. Time doesn't stop here. But it does sigh. It does stretch like warm taffy. You drift closer to the rings now. The ship's sensors hum quietly, mapping densities, scanning particles, recording temperatures so low they feel more like math than sensation. Hundreds of degrees below freezing. Still they sparkle. The sunlight, distant and diluted by space, hits the ice in the rings at just the right angle to create glints and flares. Tiny galaxies of reflection. Feels almost wrong to look at them directly, like staring at something too sacred. They orbit in near silence. Not actual silence. Your ship's instruments can hear the faint radio crackles, the particle collisions, the whispers of static, but to your ears, behind the thick shielding of your ship, it's a cathedral of quiet. Even your breath feels too loud. You find yourself wondering, what would it be like to float among the rings without the ship? Not safe, of course. But dreaming doesn't require oxygen. You imagine stepping into a spacesuit and gently pushing off from the airlock, drifting into the ring plane like a dandelion seed. Ice chips pass you like stars. They don't rush. They don't threaten. They simply move. It's easy to forget how fast they're going. Tens of thousands of kilometers per hour. But from your perspective, it looks like a slow waltz. The rings are not dangerous because of their speed. They're dangerous because of how vast and patient they are. One slip, one miscalculation, and you could spend days spiraling through the dust. Alive, breathing, watching your oxygen run out one slow minute at a time. Still, it would be beautiful. Above you, Saturn turns. It turns fast, only about 10 hours to complete a full rotation, but it's so massive that even this swift spin feels like a grand, ponderous revolution. Its equator bulges from the speed, giving it a flattened shape, as if it's being gently squashed by its own motion. Storms boil across its surface. The most famous is the hexagon, a 6-sided jet stream at the North Pole, big enough to fit 4 Earths. Scientists don't entirely understand it. It shouldn't be that shape. But there it is, persistent, spinning, timeless. Some believe it has been there for centuries. Others think it's a recent formation. Either way, it doesn't matter to Saturn. Saturn doesn't keep our kind of time. And what about you? How do you feel here, in this place where minutes slow and rings drift and clocks mean so little? Are you feeling sleepy? You're allowed to. You're allowed to close your eyes and imagine that Saturn's rings are soft and warm, wrapping you like a scarf. You're allowed to forget the clocks and just drift, just float, just breathe. Let the ice shimmer. Let the rings circle. Let the hours weigh more here, just a little, so that the dreams you carry stretch a bit longer before you wake. If you look far, far down, you might glimpse a glint of Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Their thick orange clouds guard an alien world of methane lakes and icy volcanoes. If you were standing on Titan and looked up, you'd see Saturn, enormous, beautiful, filling the sky like a silent god. Even on Titan, time would flow a little slower than Earth. This whole neighborhood of the solar system exists in a softer rhythm. Saturn doesn't just bend time. It calms it. It wraps it in rings. And so, you stay a while longer. Not because your mission requires it, but because you want to. Because something about this place tugs at your spirit. You don't feel rushed. You don't feel pulled forward. You feel suspended, like a thought that hasn't ended yet. This is not a moment. It's a between. And if you listen closely, Saturn will whisper. Not everything must be fast. Not everything must be loud. Not everything must pass quickly. And you will answer, not in words, but in stillness. Just one more slow minute beneath the rings. Just one more breath inside the hush of Saturn. Just one more dream, before time gently moves on. You're drifting. Slowly, silently, you glide on a stream of invisible motion, carried by nothing and everything all at once. The spacecraft around you hums like a lullaby, a mechanical cocoon that keeps you safe as you approach the most ancient fire in the sky, the sun. It has been with you since the beginning, lighting your mornings, coloring your sunsets, warming your skin and your memories. But today, it's no longer a distant yellow coin painted onto a blue sky. Today the sun is your whole horizon. It swells before you like a breathing god, vast, trembling, radiant. Its surface boils with currents of incandescent plasma, curling and uncurling in never-ending convulsions. Sunspots, darker and cooler, punctuate its golden body like bruises on a burning apple. Solar flares leap up like temperamental dancers, spinning in graceful violence before vanishing into the void. You're close enough now to see motion in the light itself. It doesn't shine, it ripples. The photons arrive not in a straight line, but in swarms, buffeted by the solar wind, jostling like crowds in a festival, traveling millions of miles just to touch the skin of your ship. The heat is not heat as you once knew it. It's presence. It's pressure. It pushes against your craft like a hand, like breath. And beneath all of that brilliance, like a secret woven into the glow, you feel it, time just slightly slowing down. It's not much. A fraction of a second here, a moment stretched just so. But it's enough. Enough for your body to know something is different. Enough for your heart to feel the tug. Enough for your thoughts to wonder, what does the sun do to time? Gravity and the slowness of light. The sun is heavy, not just in mass but in influence. It holds the planets in place like marbles in a bowl. Its gravity curves space around it like a whirlpool, not visible to the eye but undeniable in effect. Einstein once told us, time and space are not separate threads. They're a single cloth stretched and bent by mass. The heavier the object, the deeper the dent it makes in that cloth. And the deeper the dent, the slower time flows inside it. The sun makes a significant dent. On Earth, your seconds feel normal because you are standing far from the sun's core. But here, floating this close, your seconds begin to behave differently. Time here is slower than it is on Earth. Not dramatically so, not enough to make you feel dizzy or misplaced, but enough that, if you had a twin back home, their watch would be ever so slightly ahead of yours. Imagine two clocks, one on Earth, one near the sun. You synchronize them. Then you wait. Let hours pass. Let days drift by like leaves on a stream. When you compare the clocks again, you'll find yours is behind, by just a little. Not enough to ruin a dinner reservation. but enough to prove the universe isn't as uniform as it once seemed. Time is not absolute. Not even light is immune. As photons escape the sun's grip, they stretch, losing energy, turning redder. This is gravitational redshift, and it's one of the subtle signs that time here is moving more slowly. Even light takes longer to say goodbye. Sunlight an illusion. You try to look away. You really do. But the sun won't let you. It isn't just light, it's alive. It pulses, it sees. It sings in frequencies your ears can't hear but your body somehow remembers. It's the music of atoms colliding, of plasma twisting, of nuclear reactions born in a core hotter than words can hold. The sun is not a quiet place. It's the loudest silence in the solar system. And in that silence you begin to feel small. Not insignificant, but softened. You are one heartbeat beside a cosmic furnace. And yet, somehow the sun doesn't ignore you. Welcomes you. It bathes you in gold and time and warmth, even as it slows the beat of your internal clock. Seconds here are syrup, not sparks. They drip, they slide, they linger. You speak a word and it hangs in the air just a little longer. You blink and your eyelids seem reluctant to part. And you wonder, if time is so gently distorted here, what would it feel like to live in the sun's shimmering grip? Would you age more slowly? Would your days feel fuller, richer, longer? Perhaps yes, perhaps no. But the question stays with you, stretching like the light itself. The dance of the planets. From your position in orbit, you can see Mercury darting like a moth around the sun's edge. Venus follows farther out, its thick clouds gleaming faintly. Earth is a pale dot now, receding, spinning in the cradle of golden gravity. Each of these planets feels the sun's grip differently. The closer they are, the deeper they fall into its time-warping arms. Mercury experiences time more slowly than Mars. Earth is somewhere in the middle. It's a cosmic gradient, not of color or heat, but of tempo. You remember reading once that GPS satellites around Earth need to account for time dilation. They're farther from Earth's gravity, so their clocks tick slightly faster than ours. Engineers correct for this difference every day, because even a small misstep in time can lead to big mistakes in space. Imagine now the corrections needed near the sun. Spacecraft navigating this zone must account for time not just as distance, but as something bent. Signals take longer to emerge. Orbits must be adjusted for gravitational lensing, for drag in the curvature of spacetime. And in the middle of it all, the sun watches, unblinking, unyielding, slow. Your heartbeat in solar time. Inside the ship, your heart still beats. But you wonder, would it beat differently here if it were free of machinery and calculation? Would your breath slow to match the pace of light? Maybe. You imagine yourself stepping out, floating bare into the golden gravity. You wouldn't survive, of course, but let's pretend. Let's imagine you become a creature of flame, capable of walking across solar winds. You hold out your hand and the light does not burn you. It embraces you. Here, every gesture is deliberate. Every blink is poetry. Every heartbeat is a drum sounding once in 1,000. You speak and the sentence trails like smoke. You sleep and your dreams become longer than your waking days. This is the sun's gift and curse. A shimmering grip that slows the world without asking, that bends time without apology. Not enough to stop you, but enough to remind you that time is not yours alone. It belongs to the gravity you live in. It belongs to the fire that made you. Leaving the light. Eventually it's time to go. You fire the engines and the ship peels away from the sun's orbit like a feather caught in wind. The light begins to soften, the pressure fades. Time begins to regain its usual pace. And yet, you carry something with you. Not just data. Not just numbers about seconds and curves and dilations. You carry the sensation that time can be touched. That it can be warmed. That it can be held still, not by force but by presence. And that presence is the sun. It is still with you now as your ship glides into the cooler dark. You feel it behind you, a slow-burning eye, a memory of brightness that cannot be forgotten. And for the first time, you do not see time as a straight road. You see it as a golden ribbon, tied gently around the fire that gave you light. You drift now into a realm of fire. Not the biting kind that devours wood or stings skin, but something older, grander, and strangely peaceful. Before you lies a red giant, an elder among stars. It pulses slowly, almost imperceptibly, as though breathing in deep time. You're not flying fast now. The engines hum like a lullaby, letting you coast, allowing your thoughts to move more swiftly than your ship. You've seen many things: Mars's lightness, Jupiter's gravity, Saturn's silence. But this is different. The red giant is not young and explosive like a blue-white star, nor is it quiet and contemplative like the sun. It is old, dignified, ancient in a way that transcends your understanding. And as you approach its outer edge, you begin to feel something strange. Not heat, though it is warm. Not fear, though it is vast. But a sensation, as if time has loosened its belt. A sea of slow fire. From the window you watch flames ripple across the surface of the red giant, except these flames don't roar, they roll. They stretch and rise and fall again, like the tides of some stellar ocean. The star is so large, its outer layers no longer tightly held by gravity. They billow outward hundreds of thousands of kilometers into space, then slowly retract. And with each of these vast breaths, something inside you shifts. Your thoughts move more slowly, like leaves on a still lake. You glance at the clocks aboard your ship. They haven't stopped. They tick as they always have. But you feel untethered, like time is no longer ticking for you. The aging star. This red giant was once a star like our sun, steady, burning hydrogen into helium at its core for billions of years. But now that core is collapsing. The hydrogen fuel is mostly gone. What's left behind is a core of helium and outer layers puffed up by the complex ballet of nuclear reactions and gravity's weakening grip. You realize as you float along the edge of this star that stars grow old too. They lose their balance. Their rhythm becomes more dramatic, more emotional. Like an old friend whose stories take longer to tell. Every word matters more, every pause is weightier. And this imbalance, this swelling and contracting, doesn't just affect the star. It affects time. Time wavers. You recall what Einstein taught, that gravity can warp time. But what happens when gravity isn't steady? When the very fabric of space is breathing with a star's pulse? That's what you feel here, the unevenness. When the star expands, its gravitational field weakens slightly. When it contracts, it grows stronger. These pulses cause tiny fluctuations in the flow of time near its surface. And while these fluctuations may be minuscule in numbers, fractions of nanoseconds, they feel vast to you because your ship is suspended in this cosmic rhythm. You're no longer just watching the red giant. You're inside its breath. Time stretches as it exhales, contracts slightly as it inhales. It's as if the ticking of time has been woven into the heartbeat of the cosmos. Memory and the pulse of the universe. Something about this place brings up memories. You remember standing in a field as a child, watching clouds drift past the sun. The way the wind would pause before changing directions. How summers felt longer when you were small. Time wasn't always measured by clocks. It was once measured by feeling. By shadows creeping across stone walls. By the rhythm of footsteps on a quiet path. By the slow closing of a flower at dusk. And now, in the presence of a red giant, you're reminded of all that. Of how time once felt before it was dissected and digitized. Before it became something to chase. You don't need to measure time here. You just feel it. Light slowed. The light from the red giant doesn't blaze, it glows. It's rich and coppery like liquid amber. And it travels through thick stellar winds, winds full of particles and gas drifting outward like fog from an ancient forest. That light is slowed slightly by the density of the star's atmosphere. Not stopped, not trapped, but delayed. As if even photons are asked to pause, to reflect, to honor the slowness of this elder star. You watch as solar flares arc lazily across the star's surface, some so large they could engulf Earth 100 times over. And yet they move like dancers in slow motion, elegant and deliberate. The star whispers. You close your eyes and imagine what the red giant might say if it could speak. Perhaps it would tell you of its youth, of the nebula that birthed it, of the planets it may have once warmed, of companions it once spun within a stellar nursery, long since gone supernova or collapsed into silence. Now it is alone, but not lonely. It is simply being. It doesn't burn with rage. It glows with memory. And as you float there listening to its silence, you realize this star isn't dying. It is transforming. A lesson in slowness. The red giant teaches you something. That slowness is not weakness. That expansion is not loss. That even when the core grows heavier and the structure grows unstable, there can still be beauty. In fact, there is more beauty now than ever before. You think about your own life, about how much you've rushed, how much you've tried to fit into minutes, into days, how rarely you let yourself expand. This star has stopped rushing. So should you. Cosmic farewell. Eventually you must leave. The red giant will not stay as it is forever. One day, its outer layers will peel away into space, becoming a planetary nebula, a vast, glowing bubble. Its core will remain behind, a white dwarf, dense, silent, glowing for billions more years. You look back one last time. You see its breath again, gentle, ancient, powerful. And you feel no fear, just gratitude. For time, for transformation, for the chance to witness a star remembering its past and making peace with its future. Drifting forward. As your ship turns away, the red light fades into gold, then orange, then the blackness of space. Your clocks resume their tick. Your sensors begin picking up the faint hum of the next destination. But in your mind, that pulsing remains. You carry it with you. A lesson in cosmic rhythm. A reminder that even the most powerful forces in the universe move slowly. And that sometimes, to understand time, you have to watch a star breathe. You drift closer still. The red giant no longer feels like a distant lantern. It is an ocean of light, vast and trembling. Its breath is not heard but seen, immense, pulsating waves of brilliance, blooming outward in slow, majestic pulses. Each one is like the inhale of a sleeping colossus, stretching its fiery lungs across space. The star sighs again. This time you feel it not in your ears but in your chest. Your body, encased in the quiet shell of the spacecraft, floats like a seed in the wind. But in here, time isn't blowing forward. It is swaying, rocking gently back and forth. Seconds stretch, elongate, then retreat. Your internal clock, once faithful, now confused, beats slower. Not because of any damage, but because the laws around you are different. The immense mass of the red giant warps the fabric of spacetime like a deep bowl pressed into a sheet. You are falling around its curve, weightless and slow, caught in its gravity, but not crashing. Instead, you glide through the outer envelope of its warmth, close enough to feel the drag of time. You open your eyes and the view nearly breaks you. It is not just red. It is every shade of flame, crimson, copper, blood orange, gold, layered in swells and streaks. Tongues of plasma rise and collapse like waves in reverse, looping back into the sea from which they came. You can see its photosphere shimmer and peel, revealing hidden textures like the folds of a silk curtain catching fire. You remember Earth's sunsets, how they painted your walls in the evening. This is like seeing the painter's hand up close, dipping into the sun's own palette. And yet, it is dying. The red giant, for all its size and beauty, is not eternal. You've read that stars become red giants when they've exhausted their hydrogen, the fuel of their youth. This one is nearing the end of its long story. It is expanding in its final act, shedding its outer layers like a tired monarch unfastening its robe. With every breath it takes, more matter floats away. You watch pieces of the star, no bigger than cities, yet glowing hotter than anything you've ever touched, drift outward, cooling as they go. In a few million years, this star will collapse, leaving behind a hushed white dwarf or scattering itself into nebular poetry. But for now it breathes, and in its breath, time trembles. You glance at your instruments. The red giant's gravitational well is not as steep as a black hole's, but it's still deep enough to pull on the seconds of your life. If someone were watching from Earth, they would see your ship crawl, your every move slowed like syrup down a glass wall. To you, everything feels normal. But to the universe outside, your clock ticks with reluctance. You try to speak, but there is no sound. The silence here is enormous. Even radio waves struggle to travel cleanly near this much heat and interference. You are alone with the light, with a fire that moves like a great breathing god. The air inside your cabin hums gently, the only reminder of your own body's rhythm, soft and faithful. You lean against the viewing glass. Not because you're tired, though the hush of this place does cradle your mind, but because you want to be closer. Closer to something ancient. Something burning and kind and mortal. There is a strange mercy in the red giant. For all its rage, it gives light. For all its collapsing core, it expands and warms. It dies in generosity, sharing more energy in this late stage than it ever did in its youthful brilliance. And you think, isn't that beautiful? To shine brightest before the end. To stretch your arms wide even as your heart slows. To breathe so fully that you shift the tempo of time itself. Your thoughts drift too. What would it feel like to live near such a star? To be born under the red sky of a planet orbiting this giant? Days would be long, hot, and ruddy. Nights might never fully darken. Seasons would stretch out, lazy and golden, like warm afternoons that never end. Would time feel slower to them as well? Would they measure their lives in songs, not minutes? Would aging feel like ripening rather than fading? You imagine them, those alien lives quietly evolving in soft gravity. Their hearts would beat slightly faster. Their shadows would be red. Their concept of urgency might be entirely different. Maybe they would never rush. You smile at the thought. Then the star breathes again, and your entire field of vision is filled with radiant motion. It is like being kissed by a flame that does not burn. A touch of history. A reminder of all the stars that came before. In the distance, you see a solar prominence, an arc of fire leaping from the surface like a dancer in slow motion. It curves and glows and gently falls back into the body of the star, caught by the same gravity that holds your time hostage. This is not violence. This is grace. The universe does not always move in lines. Sometimes it swirls. Sometimes it lingers. Your time does both. You take one last look before preparing to drift away. There is a reluctance in your fingers as you key in the departure sequence. Not because you're afraid, but because some part of you has melted into the rhythm here. You've grown used to the giant's breathing. His pulse has joined your own. But you know you cannot stay. Even stars must die. And you are still moving outward, onward, toward the darker places where time stretches even farther. As you pull away, the red glow softens behind you. You look back through your window, and the star seems to bow gently, exhaling a final breath in your direction. And for just a moment, you breathe with it. At first it's just a dot. A perfectly ordinary speck in the void, so small, so dark, it's easy to overlook. The stars around it shimmer and ripple like candlelight caught in water. But then you realize something strange. They're not twinkling. They're being dragged. Dragged toward something invisible. bent around in absence. This is your destination, the black hole. Not a thing but an unthing. A place where space folds in on itself and time doesn't behave. It's not a monster. It's not evil. But it is final. And as your small ship drifts closer, the edge of reality feels soft, like cloth being pulled loose at the seams. You float at the edge of the most curious silence. You've spent time near stars before. Watched their golden breath. Felt their heat tug gently at the second hand of your ship's inner clock. But this is different. The silence here is not the silence of space. It's the silence of something wrong with time. At this distance, your sensors already begin to twitch. Your atomic clock ticks slightly slower than the one you left back on Earth. Not enough to notice, yet. But soon. Soon, every tick will become elastic. Soon time will stop pretending it's linear. You look back. Behind you the stars are still crisp. Still singing their ancient light songs across the black. But ahead of you, just ahead, the field begins to bend. Light curves. Starlight doesn't travel straight anymore. It swings in circles. Spirals inward. You begin to see something you've never seen before. The back of stars. Light, trapped by gravity, is circling the drain. Your ship drifts into the edge of the photon sphere. A band of space where gravity is so strong, even light can be caught in orbit. You stare out the window and see light behaving like a moth that can't fly away from the flame. You see the same star, in multiple places. A copy here. A copy there. Ghost images of the universe twisted into halos. You are looking at the entire sky all at once, smeared like oil on glass. Up is down. Forward is behind. You are wrapped in echoes of light, some that have taken the long way around the black hole before arriving in your eyes. And through it all, the center stays empty. Perfectly, impossibly empty. You take a breath, but the moment you exhale, you feel it. Your breath doesn't leave you in real time. The sound of it trails just a little slower in your ears. Your thoughts feel thick, not sluggish, just stretched. Your voice, if you spoke now, would feel syrupy, warped, because you are falling into something that bends even thought. You move closer. At this point, gravity is no longer a force, it's an experience. The difference in gravity between your feet and your head is measurable. The bottom of your ship is being pulled more strongly than the top. Tidal forces, spaghettification. The body is no longer treated as a whole. And so your ship adjusts, slows, aligns itself so delicately with the gradient of space-time that you don't feel yourself descending, but you are. Your seconds are now longer than Earth's. A minute for you might already be 10 for someone back home. You send a transmission. By the time it reaches Earth, you wonder if the news will be outdated. If the people you once knew will have aged while you sat in the quiet hum of your ship, watching light curl like ribbon. You are not aging like them anymore. There it is. Not a wall. Not a gate. Not anything really. Just a place where light no longer escapes. Where, from the outside, everything freezes. To someone watching from a distance, you would appear to pause, as if you were caught mid-breath, suspended, slowly darkening. They would never see you fall in, never see you cross the horizon, just fading, slowing, reddening, gone. But from your side, on board your ship, you feel none of this. You continue, unaware that for the rest of the universe your time has paused. You are still you. Still thinking, still seeing, still breathing. But your minutes no longer mean the same as theirs. Now time is no longer stretched, it is smeared. Each second contains echoes, fragments, perhaps even lifetimes. Your ship's computer ticks, but its internal mechanisms report something curious. There is more happening per moment, more vibration, more frequency, more something. You think of Earth, of all the things happening there while you sit still. Cities rise and fall. Rivers change course. Empires forget their names. Whole civilizations pass like clouds while you blink once. If you were to escape, would you recognize anything? You glance at the monitor. A message blinks on the screen, an automatic update from Earth transmitted through the slow vacuum. But the year is wrong. It's too far ahead. Too much has passed. And you are still here. You will never reach the center. No ship can survive that. No instrument can report from beyond. Not because it's forbidden, but because the math simply breaks. Space-time here is not just curved, it's collapsed. There is no direction, no future, no elsewhere. Only the final frame of a cosmic film reel that has burned at the edges and left only a whisper. You are not dead. You are not dying. You are simply somewhere that no longer obeys time. You sit in that unspace. You think. Maybe you dream. Let's say a minute passes. You're not sure. It's hard to count. But let's say 1. On Earth, years tumble by. Flowers bloom in places that forgot your name. Children are born who will never know the sky you left. Languages evolve. Ice sheets melt. Satellites fall. And still you are breathing. Still thinking. Still drifting. 1 more minute. And now it's been a century. Your friend, the one who stood at the launch pad and waved goodbye, they're long gone. Their children's children are dreaming new dreams now. Maybe there's a plaque somewhere with your name and a date that's already outdated. Maybe your ship is a legend. Or forgotten. But you are still here. You try to record a message. Hello, you begin. This is. But time plays tricks on your voice. The words come out too slow. Your breath doesn't reach the microphone in the same rhythm as your lungs intended. The ship's system logs it all faithfully, but will the message ever reach anyone? And if it does, will they still have years to understand it? Will they even remember what a black hole is? You smile strangely, because this isn't sadness. This is awe. The black hole hums. You can't hear it, not really, but the ship's sensors detect a vibration, a whisper in the void. An echo of collisions from long ago. Star cores. Collapsing giants. Supernovae that left behind this dark womb. Your ship is still. But space-time is ringing. You wonder if this is what the universe hears when it remembers. You do not crash. You do not vanish. You simply continue. Into what you cannot say. Time has stopped being something you move through. Now it moves through you, folded, spiraled, impossible. Maybe this is the end. Maybe this is the beginning. Maybe this is just a stretch of forever, held in the palm of the universe's quietest hand. You close your eyes and drift into a darkness so complete, it feels like a lullaby. You have come so far. Your journey has taken you past planets of fire and gas, through the hush of deep space and the shimmer of burning stars. You have watched time bend and fold, slow and flutter, a fabric being tugged at by forces unseen. But now you arrive at the boundary that even light does not cross. You arrive at silence, not the quiet of an empty room or the stillness of midnight wind, but the true silence of the edge of everything. The black hole yawns before you like a dark blossom in space, opening without petals or scent. It doesn't swirl like Jupiter, nor blaze like the sun. It doesn't hum or pulse or shine. It simply is, a stillness so immense that it unthreads meaning. You stop just outside its event horizon, that invisible boundary where light, time, and even cause and effect give up their normal games. In this place there are no footsteps or echoes, no beeps from your ship's console. Even your breath, filtered and recirculated, feels distant and unanchored. You are floating in the silence at the edge of physics. And though your ship still moves gently on its course, the world has taken on a dreamlike texture, where seconds no longer feel like seconds. They hang in the air like droplets in a photograph, frozen mid-fall. You listen, but the silence here is not empty. It is full of pressure. It folds around your body like velvet made of gravity. The absence of sound becomes a sound of its own, a hum your ears don't hear but your bones recognize. It is the weight of space-time stretched taut. Even your heartbeat, once steady, predictable, begins to feel uncertain here. Not because your body has changed, but because the meaning of rhythm is different now. Every heartbeat feels like a defiance. And yet it's not fear you feel. It's awe. This is not a monster, though legends might paint it so. The black hole is not a devourer, it's a teacher of extremes. A sculptor of time. And you, small and soft in your ship, are not prey. You are a witness. You run your hand along the console. The light from the nearest star takes longer to reach you now, pulled back by the black hole's deep thirst. Photons try to escape, slingshotting, curling, hesitating. The universe around the event horizon seems to melt inward, space folding like warm wax near a flame. Shapes become stretched, warped, curved. If you held out your hand and looked at its shadow, it might appear to ripple like underwater silk. Even time, oh time, is no longer flat. From this vantage you could watch the universe change at high speed. Stars blaze and fade like fireflies. If you stared long enough at a distant galaxy, you might see it evolve. Your clock ticks slow, slower, slowest. But the cosmos spins on, uncaring, quickening around you like a wind you can't feel. What is a minute here? What is an hour? Back on Earth, perhaps people are living entire lives while you sit, eyes wide, on the edge of this abyss. Perhaps someone is growing old. A child you once knew might be an adult now, wondering where you went. Or maybe no time has passed at all. Because from here, the illusion of synchronized clocks dissolves. You begin to lose your grip on units. Time is no longer hours or seconds, but textures. One moment feels sticky like honey slowly poured. Another is sharp, a blade of realization slicing through memory. A third is formless, like fog, as if your mind itself were stretching toward the whole. You find yourself blinking slower, breathing deeper. Each action is drawn out as if the universe were asking you to savor it. You close your eyes for a minute, or was it a year? Inside your head, the echo of your own voice becomes the only companion. You think of something simple, your name, perhaps. But even it feels foreign, a sound from a planet that spins too fast. A word tied to a heartbeat that now beats like a distant drum. You are still here. The sensors on your ship pick up gravitational lensing, the warping of light around the black hole's throat. Stars behind it appear in places they shouldn't, mirrored and bent. It is as though space has grown a funhouse mirror, but the distortion is no joke. It's the universe's truth rendered in a more honest form. Even mathematics feels poetic here. A photon schemes the event horizon and escapes, barely. It has aged in its own peculiar way, its frequency stretched, its color redshifted to almost nothing. It arrives at your sensors like a tired traveler, exhausted from escaping gravity's hold. That little flicker of light took centuries, maybe millennia, to reach you. And now it is part of your story. You imagine what would happen if you crossed the line. Would time stretch so far that your entire future unfolds in an instant? Would you become a smear of data across spacetime? Theories differ. Some say you would never even know. The event horizon marks a point of no return, but not of immediate transformation. You'd continue falling, your clock ticking normally, even as the outside universe raced forward without you. You could watch the universe die in a flash, they say. Others suggest spaghettification, your body stretched into atoms by tidal forces. But that depends on the size of the black hole. This one is vast. Its hunger is slow. It might let you fall gently, digesting your presence like a dream swallows a thought. But you do not cross. You stay here balanced at the brink. Because sometimes the edge is more important than the plunge. From this still point, you begin to see the fabric of the universe not as a grid or a chart, but as a living thing. It flexes. It breathes. The black hole is its exhale, the place where spacetime sighs and folds inward. The silence is not absence but listening. You listen too. And in that listening you find something unexpected: peace. Not the peace of ignorance or denial, but the peace that comes from accepting enormity. You do not control this place. You do not even fully understand it. But you are here. You are present. And that is enough. Perhaps this is what time really is. Not seconds on a clock or dates on a calendar, but awareness, attention, a gentle opening of the eyes to the now. The more deeply you observe, the more slowly it flows. At the edge of the black hole, time does not end, it simply becomes visible for what it truly is: a question. And you, in your small ship, are the answer. Eventually the instruments blink. A whisper of information returns, data gathered from light barely escaping the pull. Your craft gently pivots, not toward the hole but away. It is time to leave the edge of silence. As you turn, the universe greets you anew. Time begins to quicken. Your breath feels yours again. Your thoughts return to rhythm. But something has changed. You carry with you the memory of stillness, of that vast hush, of the moment when you were more witness than traveler. The black hole recedes in your rear view, its perfect darkness undisturbed. And you, small speck of consciousness, drift on, no longer chasing time but carrying its mystery within you. You begin to drift. Slowly, gently, like a leaf untethered from a tree, caught in the first sigh of a morning breeze. The pull of the black hole no longer tugs at your bones. The deep hum of gravity, once so thunderous it felt like it might swallow your soul, begins to soften, to release, to fade into something more distant, more dreamlike. You're still trembling, not from fear, but from the residual awe that lingers in every molecule of your being. What you have just witnessed, what you've barely escaped, it defies every language you know. You pass near the edge of forever. The black hole's maw still looms behind you, silent and vast, its mouth never quite closing, its hunger never quite full. But now, slowly, your spacecraft is turning, pivoting away from its dark gaze, from the curved lines of twisted starlight and the tight stretch of time. The stars begin to return. One by one, like timid creatures peeking out after a storm, the points of light blink back into being. Dim at first, then brighter, then sharp and crisp, reasserting their place in the sky. They remind you of who you are, of where you came from. Not just from Earth, but from time. From minutes and hours and days that tick in a rhythm you know by heart. Your heartbeat slows. Your breaths grow longer. You're coming home. But even as you leave the black hole behind, it does not leave you. Not really. You feel its echo in your chest like a second heartbeat. The weight of it, the presence of it. You're different now. Everything is. You look back one last time. The black hole has no edges, no borders, no clear perimeter. It simply is. It floats there, embedded in the fabric of space like a tear in velvet. Around it, space still warps. Time still bends. But you, having passed through its gravitational field without falling into its heart, carry a secret no clock can measure. You have moved through a place where time itself forgets how to behave. And time, your time, has changed. At first, you don't notice. After all, you are still you. You still breathe. You still think in seconds and minutes. But something feels out of sync. As your ship climbs the long slope out of the gravity well, a strange realization begins to settle in. While your journey near the black hole may have lasted just a few hours for you, far more time has passed elsewhere. Back on Earth, calendars have flipped, suns have risen and set, children have grown older, tides have cycled. You check your instruments. The timestamp confirms it. Days, weeks, no years, decades even. It doesn't feel real. The stardust outside looks the same. Your hands look the same. But Earth has aged without you. You are still within the same universe, but no longer within the same moment. You look ahead, and that's when you see it, the Milky Way. It rises slowly in your viewport like a vast, galactic river. Soft and silver and sinuous, it coils through the darkness in slow spirals. It is so much larger than you remembered, not in size but in presence, in weight, in meaning. You have floated near stars before, passed close to Saturn's rings, skimmed the breath of a red giant. But now the galaxy itself feels like a message written across the sky. A reminder, a whisper. You feel yourself soften again. Your shoulders drop. Your thoughts untangle. The silence, once so complete it rang like a bell, now feels warm, comforting. You are no longer trapped within it, you are held by it, cradled, safe. And as you begin the long journey away from the abyss, time begins to return to you, not all at once, but in pieces, in slow unfolding petals, in memories and feelings that stir gently in your chest. You remember the sunlit days on Earth, the sound of ocean waves, the way wind moves through grass. You remember laughter, music, the quiet comfort of a cup of tea, the small weight of a cat sleeping on your chest. All of it is still yours. You close your eyes and for a moment you simply float, letting yourself be carried by the inertia of your escape, by the forward motion of your future. You are not rushing. There is no rush. Here, between the black hole behind you and the stars ahead, you exist in a space where presence is all that matters. A small chime sounds, your navigation system realigning for the galactic current. The route home is long but steady. The trajectory is set. As your engines hum back to life with a low, reassuring vibration, you feel the shift, the return of motion, of destination, of purpose. And yet, some part of you hesitates. Not from fear, but from reverence. You don't want to forget what the black hole taught you. You don't want to let go of the way your sense of self unraveled and reknit under such immense silence. So you carry it with you. Not as a burden but as a blessing. You whisper to yourself, time is not a straight road. It bends, it breathes, it forgets. The galaxy outside seems to nod in agreement. As your ship glides past fields of faint starlight, you think about how time works differently for everything that exists. For photons, for planets, for people. A moment on Earth is not the same as a moment near Jupiter or Saturn or the edges of a black hole. But in each place, it is your moment. It belongs to you. You are not a clock. You are a traveler, a witness, a story being told by the stars. You smile. Not everything has changed. You are still moved by the same things. The glow of distant suns, the slow dance of comets, the hush of empty space. You begin to hum a tune, an old Earth melody, one you haven't sung in years. It doesn't matter that no one hears. It's yours. Like your time. Like your journey. Like this quiet leaving of the abyss. Somewhere far behind you the black hole still waits. Not in anger. Not in malice. But as a monument to mystery. A reminder that there are places in the universe where time is not a river, but a spiral, a loop, a pause. You honor it as you pass. You don't need to understand everything. You only need to feel. And you do. Every moment now feels thicker, richer, as though it's made of something heavier than before. You sip your tea more slowly. You breathe more deliberately. You smile more easily. The universe has not changed, but your relationship with it has. You are no longer simply in time. You are in dialogue with it, listening, speaking, singing. The stars twinkle in the distance, no longer scattered lights, but companions. They know what you know. That time is strange. That time is beautiful. That time, once stretched and compressed, still returns to your hand like a ribbon fluttering in the wind. You whisper one more thing, this moment is mine. And the galaxy agrees. The spaceship hums quietly as you drift closer to Earth. Outside the window, stars blink like tired eyes. You are wrapped in silence, the kind that only space knows, an endless hush that has followed you through wormholes of wonder, across invisible time rivers, around fire-breathing giants, and past the unseeable edge of black holes. But now that silence feels like it's carrying you home. Earth begins as a blue whisper in the dark. No sound, just a feeling, a familiar glimmer at the edge of thought. The planet doesn't shout to greet you. It waits, patient and gentle, wrapped in the swirl of its clouds. You've seen galaxies spin like giant pinwheels, stars collapsing, time stretching until it sang in slow motion. But none of that prepares you for the quiet gravity of returning. You stare at Earth as if seeing it for the first time. Not as a planet, not as a home, but as something soft, something tender. There's moisture in your eyes, and you don't know whether it's condensation or something older, something primal. The stars do not leave you. As Earth swells in the window, the constellations stay threaded across the sky, like gentle reminders. You carry them with you now. You carry Jupiter's weight in your bones. You carry Saturn's slow dances in your breath. You carry the sun's shimmering push and pull in the rhythm of your pulse. You carry the black hole's silence curled in the folds of your memory. The universe is no longer something outside of you. It is stitched into your muscles and mind. It is yours. The capsule begins descent. Thin layers of atmosphere begin to kiss the hull. You feel the first friction, soft as a sigh, a whisper from the air that once held you. Clouds part like curtains pulled aside, revealing blues and greens and browns, a patchwork of life. Cities glow like constellations turned upside down, flickering across the continents. Rivers gleam silver, wriggling like veins under skin. You feel a trembling in your chest. Not fear. Not even excitement. Something quieter. A resonance. As if your heartbeat is syncing with something much older than you, older even than time itself. The capsule touches down gently. The ground greets you like an old friend, solid, imperfect, warm. You step out and the air is a balm. Not clean, not pure, but full of memory. You breathe and it smells of wet soil, of moss, of wind through grass. The sky arches above you, no longer just a ceiling but a familiar blanket, deep and dark and full of light. The stars above look smaller from here, less sharp, but you know their names now. You know their rhythms. You know that some are already gone, their light still making the long journey home. You look up and whisper to them. Not because they need to hear you, but because you need to speak. Just once. To say thank you. And so you begin to walk. There's no rush. The ground beneath your feet feels softer than you remember. The gravity feels gentle, like a hand resting on your shoulder rather than a chain. You make your way toward a house. Or maybe a cabin. Maybe a tent. The shape is less important than the feeling. It has a roof. It has windows. There is light inside. You hear crickets in the distance and something rustles in the trees. An owl perhaps. Or the wind. You open the door. The warmth of it hugs you. Not heat. Not temperature. Just warmth, like memory turned into wood and lamp glow. A blanket waits for you. A chair. A mug of something steaming sitting quietly on a table. You don't remember placing it there. But it doesn't matter. This is a place where time no longer needs to be precise. You sit. You hold the mug, let the warmth seep into your hands. The steam curls upward like a tiny ghost, dancing before vanishing into the soft glow of the room. Outside the window, the stars are still there. Less infinite perhaps, but more personal now. They're no longer just points of light. They are places you've touched with your mind. Names you've whispered to. Stories you've brought home like treasures in your pocket. Time feels different now. Not faster. Not slower. Just deeper. You watch the steam rise and you remember Saturn's rings circling in silence. You watch the clock on the wall tick gently forward, and you recall how time once bent around Jupiter. You hear the creak of the floorboards beneath your chair, and you remember how your own heartbeat once echoed beyond the edge of sound near a black hole. You understand now that time is not a line. It's not a schedule. It's not a ticking second hand or the countdown on a screen. Time is a feeling, a stretch, a breath. You lie down on a small bed. The sheets are cool, the pillows shaped like the sky, wide, curved, and endless. You pull the blanket over yourself. It smells like lavender and dust and starlight. The room is quiet, but not empty. You feel presence, not of others, but of moments. They settle around you like feathers, each one carrying a different piece of the cosmos. A moment near a red giant. A moment beside the cold rings of Saturn. A moment in the tunnel of warped light near a black hole. You realize that none of it is gone. It is all still with you. Time is not something you leave behind. It travels with you, in you, around you. Your breath, your heartbeat, your memories, all ticking to a clock uniquely yours. Outside, a breeze begins to rise. It brushes against the trees, then the roof, then your window. It's the kind of wind that doesn't rush but remembers. A wind that knows what you've seen. It hums softly like the spaceship once did. And then, slowly, your eyes begin to close. You are not tired in the usual way. You are full. Like a traveler who has returned not just from a distance, but from a different kind of knowing. As you drift off, you imagine the stars blinking in agreement. You imagine time curling around you like a cat, purring in slow rhythm. You imagine space not as something out there, but as something curled gently behind your eyelids. You are home. You are starlight. You are still moving, but you are also still. You are everything that time ever touched, and everything that it will. Sleep comes not as a fall, but as a floating. You drift, weightless, through the soft folds of your blanket, as if it were stitched from Saturn's rings, edged with light. And in that final moment before dreams take you completely, you think one last thought. Time is not the enemy. It is the story. And now, finally, it is yours to rest within. And now, let it all soften. Let your thoughts fall like autumn leaves, one by one, settling on quiet ground. You've come so far, haven't you? From the earliest clocks carved in stone, to the dancing shadows of sundials, to Einstein's gentle unraveling of space and time. You've followed the flow of seconds across the stars. You've floated above Mars where time runs just a little quicker. You've drifted by Jupiter where hours hang heavy in the air. You've watched Saturn's rings slow the minutes like ribbon through water. And you've dared to peer into the velvet mouth of a black hole, where time stretches thin like silk across the infinite. You've passed through all of it, each place a little quieter, a little slower, until now, you are here, back beneath your ceiling of stars, back in your room, where the walls are warm, where the air is still, where your breath rises and falls, like waves you no longer need to ride. And all that cosmic time, the clocks that rushed, the hours that hesitated, the minutes that felt like eternities, they're no longer pressing against you. They've all faded into the hush, because now, your time is only this, one soft inhale, one softer exhale, a stillness that belongs only to you. Let your eyelids grow heavier, let your jaw unclench. Let the space between each breath widen, like a night sky slowly blooming with stars. You don't need to think anymore. You've already thought. You've already wandered, and wondered, and learned how time dances with gravity, how speed can slow your aging, how space bends the rhythm of your life, like a lullaby played on a curved piano key. Now it's time to stop asking questions. Now it's time to let go. You can rest. You can drift. Just imagine. You are not a body lying in a bed. You are a particle of stardust. tumbling gently through the dark, not lost, not afraid, just floating, slowly, safely, falling back toward a quiet planet that has always called you home. You fall past Saturn's glowing rings, past Jupiter's stormy sighs, past the warm breath of the sun. You float through Earth's gentle sky, where clouds curl like sleepy thoughts, and birds have long since gone still. And at last, you feel the gravity of your pillow pulling you in, not with weight, but with welcome, not with urgency, but with kindness. You settle into it like a snowflake finding a branch, like a feather choosing a breeze. This is your cradle now, this bed, this moment, this slow, slow second. Let it hold you. Let the blanket become a cocoon, and the air around you turn thick with comfort. Let your body remember what it means to rest, what it means to be safe, what it means to stop trying to be anywhere else but here. There's nothing more you need to do, nothing more you need to be. You've already been everything tonight: a time traveler, a curious soul, a silent observer of stars. Now be still. Let your breath become the only movement. Let the rhythm of your heart match the rhythm of the sky. Even now, far above you, time keeps flowing. Stars keep aging. Black holes keep stretching the seconds. But none of that touches you here. Not tonight. Tonight, the universe is quiet. Tonight, the cosmos folds itself around your dreams like a blanket. So let go. Let your thoughts fade to murmurs. Let your muscles untangle. Let sleep bloom around you, like starlight in a midnight field. You're already halfway to dreaming. You're already wrapped in a silence, older than time itself. And in this moment, the only thing that matters is that you are here, and you are loved, and you are safe. So let me leave you with one last breath, drawn slow and deep, and one final word, carried gently on the wind of sleep. Good night.